Wow, it's out there. You just see each one. So I think next week it's 12. Ready? Okay, let's get started. So one quick announcement. On February 23, from 2:25, to 5, we're going to have a really great event here in Violet. It's by the School of Business. So it's Truby's Forum, and we're going to have it, I think, VH 1000, right? This week, I think. So if you have no class, I strongly recommend to attend this event, okay? And if you also look the timing, contract this with our office hours. So basically for the first 30 minutes, I'll be in my office and then I'll be on desk. If you need me for that day, to meet me, you can find it. We're gonna have two speakers, Ryan Murphy, they're all the industry practitioners. And we're gonna have one professor from Florida International. They're going to talk about the experience, means, so it should be a good one for you. Strongly recommend, if you have nothing else to do, go there and attend that. So how was your morning so far? Good? Enjoyed? No? So any questions from last quiz, last class, or anything you have? We all good? So basically in the last class, we're talking about factors that can affect exchange rates, right? Basically the spot rate. And we're talking about two forces, demand, supply. And when these two forces intersect, we're gonna get the equilibrium spot rate, and on that trade, our currency will exchange, right? So let's say spot trade or price or value here, quantity here, right? Supply, demand. Right now, the market is in equilibrium, and we are at this quantity at this point of price. In the last class, we only talked about inflation, right? And we know what is the impact of inflation, right? Now let's talk about the second part, interest rate. And if we see that after the initial level of equilibrium, if there is an increase in US rates, so this is the relationship between what? US and pound, right? US dollar and pound. We reach our initial level of equilibrium. Now, after the initial level of equilibrium, we find that there is an increase in the level of interest rate. So what is the expectations? What is going to happen? What the people from US, what the people from UK will do due to this new change on the economy. No idea. Think about it. People from US, should they demand more pounds or not? People from UK, should they supply more pounds or not? Think about this way. If there is more interest available in USA, what should be the pound flow? People from US, should they demand more British pound? Which is that? Should they need more British pound for anything? People from UK, if they need more dollar, that means they'll supply more pound, right? What's going to happen? There's a rise in interest rate in the US. In terms of investments, people from US, do they want to deposit more money in US or in UK? Do you want to invest more money, deposit or invest more money in US or UK? Rise in interest in US. If you deposit more money in the US, higher rate, right? You want to invest or deposit more money in US or UK? US, right? So if people from US want to deposit or invest more money in US, that means there should be a lowering demand from the people in US for anything in UK, right? Because whatever they have other money, they'll use it for depositing in US, right? That means there should be lower demand from the people of US of UK pound, right? We can think about demand curve should move this way. Making sense? I have $100 which I can use to demand for UK goods and services, or I can put it in the bank in US, right? Now the interest rate is really, really high in US. Why should I go either deposit in UK, or why should I go and demand for goods and services in UK, right? Rather, it's better to put it in my country bank account, right? Local bank account. So that's why there is a lower demand. Make sense? Lower demand in British pounds. Now think about the people from UK. They have money. They want to deposit in US or UK. More interest in US. They want to invest more in US or more in UK, or deposit more in US, more in UK. More in US, right? So they will ask for more dollar, right? When they ask for more dollar, that means they will supply more pound, right? What is the implication? On the rates. What is the implication on the rates? Goes down, stays the same, goes up. Goes down, right? So the idea is when there is a differential change in the interest rate, the country that experience rise in interest rate will attract their home people to keep the money within the country, and also people from outsider to invest on that local country, right? And that will do what? That will make the home currency appreciate, because we're talking about direct quotation. When it goes down, home currency appreciate, right? So the rate goes down, that means home currency appreciate. So all we're talking about direct quotation. When direct quotation goes down, home currency appreciate. Direct quotation goes up, home currency depreciate, right? Make sense? Questions? The impact of interest rate on the spot rate. All good? Here's the thing. Spot rate goes down. What does it mean? Spot rate goes down, direct quotation, home currency appreciate. Let's talk about income levels. So going back to our initial equilibrium again. Right? Now let's say people in US has more money. They have more income, more GDP, more money. What is the expectations about their demand for British pounds? If you have more money than previously, you want to consume more, spend more, or less? Spend more. Spend more. So, do you want to demand more British pound or less? More? Demand should go on the right side or left side? Right side? Okay. What is the new implication? What rate goes up in terms of US quotation? Home currency, appreciate, right? Because now we are looking for more demand for British pound, right? We have more money. People in US have more money. When people in US have more money, will demand for more British pound. Spot rate goes up. What is the implication? Home currency depreciate. Questions: inflation, interest rate, income, and their impact on the exchange rate, spot exchange rate. So the easy way to think about is the intuition. Like let's say there's an increase in interest rate. If there's an increase in interest rate, what should be the people in US going to do? Right? What should be the people of foreign countries? It's not about UK. Foreign countries will do, right? If there's an increase in income level, what do you do? When you have an increase in income level, you consume more, right? That means we will consume also foreign goods and services more, right? Right? Similarly, inflation level, but as in rising inflation, products are expensive. We don't want to buy expensive products. We want to buy cheap products, right? We will move towards cheaper price level, right? And that's gonna affect demand and supply. And due to that, spot rate or exchange rate will be affected. Make sense? Now, government controls or government policies, intervention. Those are kind of direct impact how government want to see on the spot rates. So let's say government impose some trade barriers. And they said, we will not import certain products from UK. That's hypothetical. We will not import certain products from UK. Right now, we are in our initial level of equilibrium. What do you think? And there will be no retaliation. You two will not do anything else. On USA, we will reduce the import from it. Let's say that. Always upset. That's the new policy from the level of equilibrium. What do you think? What's going to happen? If US reduced amount of value of imports from UK, what do you think? Demand and supply. Okay, let's start with supply decreased. Okay, supply decreased. Demand increased. I repeat, the only changes from the equilibrium. US government said we will reduce amount of imports of UK. And what you expect on this graph? Supply increased. What do you think? Demand?
Yeah.
Why?
It's quite down.
Demand decreases because it's not more expensive, because due to the government policy, let's say we used to have $100 imports. Now for only government users, don't think our expense or whatever. Now import is $80. We used to have $100 imports from UK. Now we import $80 because of government restrictions. So that means when we import less from the UK, people of US will demand less of pound because they need less pound for payment, right? Then what is the impact? Demand. There's totally government intervention directly on the exchange. Government can say something different to make a friendly affiliation with some country. They can say, hey, let's import more from country A. Maybe for policy level issues. Demand will increase them, right? Because now people in US will demand more of that currency to pay for the imports. Make sense? So government can directly control export, import, and any other kind of macro variables so that they can affect export, import, inflation, interest rate, and a lot of other things. And due to those new policies, new intervention, we will see demand and supply curve will move in any of the directions, and we will reach the new point of equilibrium. Make sense? Okay, so let's see if we're missing anything. Okay. So we're done with inflation, interest rate, income, government control, and now moving on to expectation. Did you guys know the news what's going on in Turkey and Syria? What happened? Do you have any expectations of the currency value for Turkey with US or something else? Do you have any expectations? Interest rate, inflation in Turkey could be next 6 months or 1 year. What do you think? It's a natural shock, right? It's a natural shock. Last year we had a planned shock. Russia invaded Ukraine, right? So when any events happen, even if when there is no events happen, market participants, that means retail currency trader, that means big MNCs, big financial institutions who trade currencies regularly, they always have an expectations. Going forward, what could be spot rate between US dollar with any currency, right? And they always trade based on their expectation. And due to the expectation of market participants, spot trade always moves up and down. Right? Someone may be following, let's say, Australian economy, and they have idea, could be next year government policies, next year Australian economy. And depending on that, they know what should be the interest rate or inflation next year. They can trade based on that. They can either buy or sell Australian dollar against US dollar, right? And their expectation will affect the spot rate because they will demand or supply more or less and will try to affect those curves. And that will affect spot rate. Sometimes they are positive about the interest rate, inflation, and economy. Invest more. Sometimes they're negative about the inflation, economy, and interest rate, and liquidate their holdings. So those kind of trade or transactions based on expectations will affect the spot trade behavior. Sometimes investors or market participants overreact. Let's think about example from stock market. We do see that sometimes all of a sudden one or two stocks are highly overvalued. There are issues above, I don't know. So one or two stocks highly overvalued, right? Why? Investor sentiment, investor overconfidence, investor reaction, right? Expectation. Same thing happened exchange market. Market participants, speculators, investors overreact, underreact. So here similar means their expectations for the belief. And their overreaction, underreaction actually affect the equilibrium level, and due to that, spot trade change. Maybe there are a lot of speculation going on right now regarding the value of Turkish currencies. I think they call it lira or something. A lot of investors, market participants will buy a lot or liquidate their holdings from Turkish currency, and that's going to affect the spot trade with the US dollar. So there is really a lot of impact of market participants on the currency rate. Now, so far, what we did? We find out 5 factors, right? Inflation, interest rate, income, government control, expectation, right? 5 factors, right? And we explain 1 factor at a time, right? Do you think in real life, only 1 factor will move at a time? Definitely no, right? Because if inflation goes up from the Fisher effect formula, interest rate will also goes up, right? So if inflation goes up in your home country, that means goods and services in your home country are expensive. People will get out of your home country, right? At the same time, interest rate is also high in your home country, right? People will try to come back. with more money to deposit, right? Inflation is high, at the same time, chairman of Fed is trying to fight inflation, right? Government controls, trying to reduce inflation so that everything is under control. So all these factors should not move one at a time. No, definitely not. They're kind of interrelated. And there should be impact of multiple factors at a time, which you're trying to say interaction of factors. Inflation goes up, goods and services are expensive. People will try to get out from US, let's say. On the other hand, inflation goes up, interest rate is also going up. Now people are coming back to deposit more money in US, right? So counter effect, right? So the equilibrium level is basically determined by interaction of multiple factors. Sometimes we think about one currency at a time. But the relationship with US with the other currency, only one currency is not one currency at a time. It is affected by a lot of other currencies. And the most important thing, liquidity. If there is any currency which is not really available here in US for trade, however, one MNC demand for it for transaction, what do you think? What do you think should be the impact? What rate goes up, goes down, what do you think? Let's talk about a real example. I already talked about that in the class, in the first or second class. During the Russian war, crude oil price globally was around $110, right? You Google it, right? $110. During that Russian war, we also looked at the value of Russian ruble, right? Almost nothing. At the same time, I told you a story which is really the real story, not fake. Russia wanted to sell their crude oil to South Asian countries, $65 per gallon. Sorry, barrel, crude oil barrel, $65 per barrel. And also cost at delivery location. So they will use their own ship, deliver to that country, and when they receive at their country, $65 on spot there, even not from Russia. Why? Because during the crisis, maybe a lot of countries were not holding Russian ruble, right? Russia wanted, I can do it for you, but you have to pay me Russian ruble, not US dollar. Most of the countries, they don't hold Russian ruble all the time. So Russian ruble was not liquid. Now, if there is a demand, higher demand of Russian ruble, the price of Russian ruble should go up or down? Go up, right? So that's why liquidity is a really, really important thing. If the currency we want to trade is really, really liquid, let's say Canadian dollar, Mexican peso, British pound, euro, Australian dollar, really, really, really liquid. A lot of MNCs are trading. Big transaction will barely impact one. Big transactions. But there are a lot of currencies which we really don't know the name of. And also financial institutions at US, they really do not have big amount of inventory for those currencies. So if any new MNC want to do business and they demand for big chunk for transaction, increase in price because of liquidity cost. Financial institutions do not have a lot of inventory of those currencies, right? Similar thing, if you go to Walmart, no product, there is no post, that's it. And if they do auction, what's gonna happen? That will go up, right? Similar thing, the liquidity in the market is really, really important. Similar to stock market. When you want to trade small stock in a high volume, price will go up, right? But that's not a problem for whom? Big corporations. Microsoft, IBM, it's not a problem. But for very small corporations, that is a problem. So liquidity is a really, really important issue. So these are the factors we already talked about. Inflation, income, government impact, how this affect US demand for foreign goods, foreign demand for US goods, right? Demand curve, supply curve. Their interactions will do the perfect. Similarly here, interest rate, expectations, how it affects US demand for foreign goods, foreign demand for US goods. Their interactions will lead to exchange rate, right? Now, let's talk about how cross exchange rates moves up and down based on demand and supply. So let's say 3 currencies in this world. US dollar, our home currency, right? Canadian dollar, foreign currency. British pound, foreign currency, right? So we know that when we see the exchange rate between Canadian dollar and British pound, and we are in US, that is our cross exchange rate, right? Right? So if this currency, these 2 currencies move in the same direction, let's say both appreciated, similar magnitude, what should be the impact on the cross exchange rate? Against the US dollar, both Canadian dollar and British pound appreciated by 10%, let's say, against the US dollar. So what do you think the exchange rate between Canadian dollar and British pound should be affected? Stays the same, affected, stays the same, right? Because they both move same direction, similar way, right? If I say Canadian dollar appreciated against US dollar by 10%, but British pound appreciated against US dollar by 5%, what do you think the impact on the cross exchange rate? Around 5%, right? So Canadian dollar should appreciate against British pound, right? So the idea is when we can see the cross exchange rate and when we see that 2 other foreign currencies are moving against our home currency in a similar direction, cross exchange rate will be affected similarly. If both of the foreign currency appreciated or depreciated against home currency, similar magnitude, you should not see an impact on the cross exchange rate. They should be similar. However, when one of the currency have appreciated or depreciated more or less, then we will see impact on the cross exchange rate accordingly. Make sense? So this is a good example, you can look at it. So we are trying to look at British pound and Swiss franc over time against US dollar. So British pound may change a little bit more than Swiss franc against US dollar, right? So that's why we are able to see here the rise, right? The gap narrowed. So that's why we're able to see a drop here. Make sense? So the idea is if two home currency moved, two foreign currency moved against the home currency, we will see similar impact on the cross exchange rate. Question so far? Now let's do some problems about how big corporations or MNCs can capitalize their expectations. So let's say two countries, US, New Zealand. Lending rate in US is right now 6.72%. Lending rate in New Zealand right now 6.48%. Borrowing rate in US right now 7.20%. New Zealand 6.96%. Okay. Right now, the spot rate between US and New Zealand is 1 New Zealand currency worth 50 cents. Okay. Now, market participants make an expectation. What is the expectation? New Zealand currency will appreciate, US dollar will depreciate. So 30 days from today, the exchange rate should be 0.52. Right? If this is the information, and if you want to make money based on your expectation, what you should do? What you should do? There's an MNC in US, and the MNC in US believe that the New Zealand currency will appreciate in 30 days. And these are the borrowing and lending rates. If you want to capitalize your expectations, what you should do? It is better to invest in US or it is better to invest in New Zealand? What do you think? What to invest? US and New Zealand? From the very first class, when you're trying to think about valuation of MNCs, is it better if the foreign country appreciates? Really? In a silent mode. Really? No. So, from the very first class, we try to evaluate this, right? We are in US, investing somewhere outside. So it is better if the foreign currency appreciate in 1 year later or 30 days later or depreciate. From the first class. What was the outcome? We are in US, want to invest outside, want to liquidate 30 days from now. Is the currency outside appreciate or depreciate? Good for us. Which one is good for us? If you're confident, make it loud. Appreciation, right? So that means it is better to invest in New Zealand because the currency will appreciate 30 days from now. That's my expectation of the company's expectations. So let's think about if we borrow from US. So let's say if we borrow from US $20 million, okay? So you want to invest in New Zealand. So what should be the investment value in New Zealand? This is our borrowing. This is our lending. 40 million New Zealand values, right? Because 1:2.5 ratio. In 30 days, today is 0. In 30 days. What should be the appropriate rates from that information? What should be our appropriate borrowing rate? What should be our appropriate lending rate? We borrowed 20 million from US, invested 40 million New Zealand currency. So what should be our appropriate borrowing and lending rate? Those are annual rates. What rate? We are lending in US and New Zealand. We are lending in US and New Zealand. We borrow from US. New Zealand. What should be the appropriate lending rate? 6.48. Okay. Borrowing rate. 7.20. Right. So let's convert borrowing rate into days. This is the annual rate, right? So our borrowing rate is 7.2, right? So it should be 7.2% times 30 divided by 360, right? We know that in year we have 365 days, but this is just the bank convention. They do 360 every year. Make sense? And then for lending, 6.48. 6.48% divided by 30 divided by 360, right? So this is only our interest payment and interest earned. Payment and earned. And we also have to add principal. Because this is our entire transaction. Make sense? Now tell me the value in two different currencies, how much you got. Oh, that should be four. Four. How much you got for this one?
It's 20,120,000.
20 million, 120,000. So basically you can say 20.12 million, right? How much you got from here? 40.216 million, right? So this is what you need to pay back, right? And this is what you will receive from investment in New Zealand, right? Now, if we want to convert, how can we convert? Times 52, right? How much is that? 20.91. So now this is your total payoff on investments. That is your total payoff for the borrowing, right? Are we able to make any money or not? We are. Even though if you see here, borrowing at a higher rate, lending at a lower rate, right? Borrowing at a higher rate, lending at a lower rate, we are able to make some money. Why? Because we're expecting currency in 30 days will appreciate in New Zealand against dollar. And we're trying to make the profit from the appreciation. Making sense? So basically here, institution always have expectations. They have a lot of mathematical models, which runs in milliseconds, every milliseconds to generate what should be the expected outcomes. Maybe exchange rate between two countries, something else, what should expect the outcome. And based on the expectation, they speculate. Right? So the idea is borrow from the country whose currency will depreciate. Invest in the country whose currency will appreciate. If you want to make money based on that speculation. Now, if I change some information, forget about all of these. Forget about all of this. Just think about the borrowing amount to be 20 million. Okay. Okay. I changed information. Now you design what should be your activity today, what should be your payoff in 30 days. If you play with 20 million value of any country's currency. Make sense? $20 million USD or 40 million NG, okay? You have the capacity to borrow 20 million USD, or you have the capacity to borrow 40 million New Zealand currency. And this is the borrowing lending rate. This is your expectation in 30 days. What do you want to do today? Why? What should be your payoff in 30 days? Let me know. What? And also find the payoff then. Then what should be the payoff? If you borrow in New Zealand and invest in US dollar, okay, that's fine. That you know today. What should be the payoff in 30 days? We done? Who wants to volunteer? What you should do today? Done. From where you should borrow? New Zealand, 40 million of New Zealand, we can borrow. Then what you should do? Okay, so let's borrow from New Zealand 40 million, right? And then invest in US 20 billion because the current exchange is stay the same, right? Right? Okay. Now, how much we should pay on our borrowing? Borrow from New Zealand, 6.96, right? 6.96% 30 over. How much we can generate from US investments? 6.72, right? 6.72% times 30 over 360 plus 40 here plus 20 here. What is the final value? 40.23. Okay. Second one? 11. Okay. Now we have to convert back to New Zealand, right? By dividing by 0.48. Right? 0.48 because I changed the rate, right? How much you got here? $41.9. So this is the investment coming from US, total investment return, right? And this is my liability, right? So am I making money based on my expectations? Even if borrowing high, investing low, right? Even if borrowing high, investing low, I'm making money. Why? I'm making money because of my expectation. Currency movement. I'm making money by borrowing from the country whose currency will depreciate, investing in the country whose currency will appreciate. Simple rule. Similar thing happened for MNC valuation. If you invest or if you start a new subsidiary outside, 1 year later, 2 years later, when you're converting back your cash flow, if that country's currency appreciate, good for you, good for the value. If you depreciate, that's not good for you. Question so far? You all good? Carry trade. So what is a carry trade? It's a very easy strategy. Institutions, retail, people, individuals all over the world, they do it a lot. Let's change the numbers again. Let's say borrowing rate, US 5%, lending rate, New Zealand 6%. You borrow from US 5%, lending New Zealand 6%. What you can see here? what you can see here. Any speculations, money making opportunities? Who's this?
Regardless of exchange rate, there's an opportunity to make money.
Absolutely. Regardless of exchange rate, there is an opportunity to make money. I have no money. I can go to the bank, borrow $1,000, 5%, convert it to New Zealand currency, right? Invest at 6%, 1% interest rate gap, right? So this is called carry trade. If any individual institutions want to make money due to these interest rate differentials, that is called carry trade. Now, during my holding period, there are three things can happen. In the exchange rate, in terms of foreign currency, in terms of foreign currency. So what do you think the impact should be? If the foreign currency remain the same, appreciate, depreciate, what do you think? So right now we only looked at interest rate differentials. We want to make money based on this interest rate differentials, 1% differential. But going forward for this entire 6 months or 1 year, my holding period, exchange rate can move anywhere. It could stay the same, foreign currency can appreciate, foreign currency can depreciate. What do you think of my investment strategy will be affected by? When and why? Do you think all these three outcomes is good for me? All these three are bad for me? I'm borrowing from US at 5%, investing in New Zealand at 6%. If New Zealand currency stays the same, appreciate or depreciate. Is it all three good for me? All three bad for me? Or I don't know. There's no information there. You can only look at on that side. It is old. Anyone?
Honestly, the same setup was good, some of 1%, the point thirteen previous minutes, more than 1%. Maybe pretty then.
Okay. So do we all include that comment? Or do we have different opinion? Constant, we may still make 1%. If New Zealand currency appreciate, we make more than 1%. If it depreciates, we make less than 1%. We have 0 or even negative. Do we agree or do not agree? How many of you agree or how many do not agree? Or how many, we don't know. How many of you agree with that? Okay. Remaining disagree, how many disagree? Okay, that means remaining, we don't know. Right? So now let's think about the same example, like from this one, right now, this is the exchange rate, right? Future, it could be the same. It could appreciate. It could depreciate, right? If it stays the same, you should be able to exchange at the same rate. So there should be no impact on our exchange, right? If New Zealand appreciate, that means 1 year or 6 months. What is the holding period? Later, when we retransact from New Zealand to back in US dollar, New Zealand is more strong now. That means we will get more dollar, right? More dollar. So that means we will be able to generate more than 1%. However, if New Zealand depreciates, less strong, when you're going for transaction, reconverting, we will get less dollar, and we don't know how less, right? So we should make less than 1%. Could be anything, 0, -1, -2, anything. And also for the appreciation, we should make more than 1%. So carry trade is all about interest rate differentials. Speculating or making money based on interest rate differentials is two different things. But the problem is, if the foreign currency depreciate, it is very possible that we are not making any profit. We are making losses. However, if the foreign currency appreciate, good for us, we will make way more. So any questions? You all good? That's all for today's class. Hopefully, yes. See you on the next class.